Hi everyone, hi. Welcome to the latest episode of Township Talks. Today you have the privilege and pleasure of being with me. I'm Neo Phetoane. I'm the conveyancing and legal specialist for Stanley. I am an admitted attorney with over 10 years of experience in the legal sector. So I'm excited today. I'm excited that you get to join us and we get to have a chat about the legal intricacies of property law. So welcome everyone, welcome. If you have questions, please type them into the chat down below, type, and then we can see how we start answering them. Okay, so we can kick off today's session with property law, essentially, or rather ownership of property. So the best way to show that you own property in South Africa is if you can produce what we call a deed of transfer, affectionately known as a title deed. So if you have that and your name is registered at the deeds office, the registrar of deeds, then you're the owner. Simple as that. So the best way, the most common way people acquire property is most likely inheritance or with purchasing the property when you're buying it from someone. So when you buy property, you have to adhere to the laws of South Africa, and that says that all agreements in respect of land, whether it's a lease agreement, whether it's respective of a purchase agreement, have to be written down and reduced into writing. So that's exciting because a lot of people don't do that and they don't know how to do that. So that's where we come in and step in and try to help you or let you know what you should look for in such agreements. So a sales agreement, affectionately known as an offer to purchase, that's when you see a property and you would like to purchase it, and then you have an agreement that's drafted. So the important thing of an asset, or rather a sales agreement, is you need to know what should be in that document to make it a valid agreement. For starters, you need to be able to answer the who, when, what, why. All of that needs to be in your sales agreement. So the first things is the parties, who was buying property from where, who was selling the property, and who was buying the property. And then the next question is, for how much are you buying this property? That's the next question. How much is your purchase price? When must this purchase price be paid? Etc., etc. So those are the most common and important things that you need to look forward to. And then we have special conditions in an agreement. So special conditions would be what each party needs to do in order to perform in terms of the contract. So what's common is that the seller will have to provide an ECC, an electrical compliance certificate, or if there is an electric fence on the property, you need a certificate for that to make sure that it was validly installed. Who provides that? Who pays for it? All of that must be in your agreement as well. And it's very crucial because this agreement, if there's ever a dispute, this agreement will determine what the parties, that means you and the seller, have decided to agree on and had initially rather agreed on. So the special conditions are crucial. When must this be done? That's also very important. And who is helping you with the registration? So the thing about property is that you need conveyancers. Conveyancers are specialized attorneys who really focus on the field of property. They go to the deeds office on your behalf for you, and they essentially collect the monies on your behalf. And on registration, registration is when at the deeds office, the property will move from one person's name to the next. So they will help you with that process. So in your offer to purchase, you need to think about all of this. Who's helping you and who's paying these people as well to help to the legal fees in respect of that. But anyway, let me know if you have any additional questions in respect of that. I think I've said quite a piece, quite a lot. Okay. Also, I'm going to use this opportunity to let you know that we have an event in Durban, an information session. We're partnering with, I believe, Idwala Property Group. And if you have the opportunity, follow us on Facebook. The details are on our page. It's later on in November, and I think that's exciting as well. So if you have the opportunity and you're out in KZN, this is the perfect opportunity to be in a room full of like-minded individuals, to get to ask your questions, whatever you need to know. This is the perfect opportunity that you can ask. Okay. Okay. So, as you know, Umastandi, we're a property financing company. We mainly focus on the township areas, and we have specific areas of finance. So I have a great list here. I'm going to read out the list, general areas, and then I'll be more specific. So our areas of finance in Gauteng are Southwest Johannesburg. That includes Soweto, Lenasia, Eldorado Park, Mohlakeng, Kagiso. And in the northeast, that's Ivy Park, Ebony Park, Galfontein, Tembisa. And then Ekurhuleni, I suppose, we have Spruitview, Vosloorus, Thokoza, Rondebelt Extension, Tembisa as well. I mentioned it. You can tell I like Tembisa. And Davidson. And in Pretoria as well, we have Atteridgeville, Lotus Gardens, Mamelodi, Esteras, and now Mapias. I hope I'm saying that right. Yeah, you can tell I'm not particularly familiar with Pretoria. Okay, we have other avenues as well, areas. In Cape Town, in KwaZulu-Natal, and in the Eastern Cape as well. So there's a whole list, so please use this opportunity as well to go onto our website. It is www.umastandi.co.za. Umastandi is spelled UMASTANDI.co.za. Okay, so it looks like we have a question from our chat box. I'm excited. Okay, question is, what advice do you have when completing an OTP other than electrical compliance? Okay, so this is crucial. An OTP is the founding document of your agreement. So first you need to read it extensively. So you need to know what you're binding yourself to. That's the first one. If you have legal assistance, get the person who's assisting you to read that agreement as well. But you need to be sure that you want to buy this property, for how much you want to buy this property. Because once you sign that agreement, you are bound to it. You are bound to perform, or you are bound to cancel, or whatever penalties will be in that agreement, you will be bound to that as well. So it's important that before you sign, you have to read that document. And then you've got to know what you expect from that document. So not just registration, you've got to do due diligence. You've got to inspect the property, know what certificates you need in respect of that property. A lot of the times in some other areas, you'll need pest control to find out whether or not that has been taken care of. So you need to do due diligence for that area as well. So it's very crucial that before you sign, you are comfortable, because then you'll be bound. Yes. Okay, that's great. I see the questions are coming in, which is exciting. Very, very exciting. Okay, the next question. Umastandi requires clients to borrow using a juristic entity. What are the pros and cons of this? Oh, this is an excellent question. And I think you need to look at property as a business. The reality is it's got to bring you returns, it's got its own expenses, and the major pro of using a juristic entity is that we call it separate legal personality. So, for example, a private company or a trust is legally recognized as its own person. So your expenses are not the company's expenses. Those are separate. The company has continuity separate from you. Yes, you have shareholding, or you have an interest or a benefit in that company, but it is a separate legal entity. So you're able to run it like a business. This is for me an absolute pro. It's pro. I suppose one of the cons that you would think about is that being a person, a natural person or a juristic person, means that you have to file your SARS returns, you have to run administration to be a person. So you need to have financials for that company, and you need to have file your returns annually for that company. But there are exceptions and thresholds, so you run it like a business. SARS comes in everywhere, so it's important to be mindful of that as well. So there are a number of juristic entities that you can select from. There are private companies, there are public companies, there are trusts, so you need to select what suits your needs best. There are, depending on your needs, there are a few that can be recommended, and it's important that you consider this as well. Because a trust is being managed, or rather reports to the Master of the High Court, whereas private companies will be managed by CIPC. So it's important that you think about that in the background as well. It seems that the questions are flooding in. Hey, this is exciting. Okay, so how long does it take to get finance after submitting the required documents? Oh, this question is from Matsabela Kekana. Thank you, Matsabela. So it depends. Okay, so finance is required for different things. So if for a purchase agreement or for the construction, the documents would be different. So we have a credit committee that approves the loan facilities. So once we have approval from the credit committee, we register then a mortgage bond over the property. So you can start drawing from the funds once the bond is registered. So from approval will depend on the type of project that you have. I suppose the best person to give you an indication would be our portfolio managers. Their details are also on our website for the specific areas of finance that we have, because it is so project specific. But once that bond or that loan facility has been approved, we have 3 months to register that bond. And then once the bond has been registered, then you can start dispersing on your loan facility on that. So it depends, Matsabela. That's a very interesting question, because you need to plan around the timing, especially when you want to build. For example, December is approaching now, and December we know that construction work takes a bit of a break. So you need to plan around accordingly of when you want to break ground, and all that is important as well. Okay, so we have another question over here. How do I transfer without incurring capital gains tax or donations tax? So this question is from Ariella. It's a great question. And it shows that you're thinking about property as a business and not just in your personal capacity. So the reason is that let's maybe start and define what capital gains and donations tax are. So donations tax, if I decide, I always like to give this example, that I win the Powerball and I win 64 million, that would be great, right? So in that 64 million, I decide to donate my house, or I donate 1 million to another person, whether my friend or whomever. SARS says of that donation, they are entitled a cut to it. To my knowledge, the threshold, there is a threshold of 20%. So whatever donation you give or receive, SARS is entitled to 20% of that value of the donation. And then capital gains is if you acquire an asset, and that asset will obviously accrue over time. I'm going to give you a practical example. I think that works best. With property, for example, I buy a property with 10 Rand today, and tomorrow I sell it for 15 Rand. So the capital gain in that, this is very loosely translated, would be the 5 Rand. And that as well is liable for capital gains tax. Obviously, there are certain exceptions and whatnot. So it really does depend on how you purchase and dispose of property. So there are a number of ways you can try to avoid tax, not evade tax. And a number of them is that if you have an asset for share agreement, for example, if you are selling this entity from one person to another in the same group of companies, that would be a transfer in terms of Section 45. But Section 42 is if I'm a natural person and I'm selling it to a company that I want to be affiliated with as well. That would also have an agreement in place in terms of Section 42 of the income tax. Now, before you sign these documents, you need to agree with, or rather consult with your accountant, the person who assists you regarding what's best for you. And that's the fundamental thing, is that each circumstance is different. So the circumstances that might be best for person A are not going to be great necessarily for person B. So you need to look at the set of circumstances based on its own case and its own merit. And in some instances, a simple offer to purchase and sales agreement might actually be the best way to move a company from one entity into the next, or from one person into the next. So it really is dependent on the circumstance. Whoever is assisting you would need more information to answer that question better. Okay, so we have another question. Okay, does taking 100% surety mean that you will take my home and cars and default too? This question. Okay, so essentially with a company, because a company is its own juristic person, it's important that you understand that a company is not a natural person like you and me. It's represented by someone. So we as Umastandi look at it as a character of the people we contract with. So essentially, if you're representing the company, we request you to sign a surety or a guarantee. And this simply means that in the event that the company, who is a separate legal person, is unable to pay the loan facility, then you as the person representing the company will step into the shoes to pay off the debt to Umastandi for that loan facility. So essentially, this is not a yes or no answer. It does mean that in the event that the company, God forbid, the company is unable to pay for its own debts, is that you as the person representing the company, being the director and the shareholder of the company as well, will be liable for those debts as well. So depending on how much is owed, so if you owe 1 rand, you are liable for 1 rand. But if you owe 1 million, then you as the surety will be liable for that amount as well. So it's not necessarily dependent necessarily on what you have. It means what you are liable for. So if you owe 1 rand, you can pay that 1 rand. Does it mean you will take my home and cars too? There's a lot of legislation involved in this. So you can't just foreclose on someone's immovable properties. There are legal steps that you have to follow first. You have to first recover against the judgment against the person who made the debt, so the company first, and then you go after the surety. And only what's left, what the company can't pay, then the surety will be liable for. In a nutshell, I'm simplifying everything, but it's important that you understand the concepts first, what they mean and how they impact you. And I think that's crucial. So the thing about legal jargon is that there's a lot, it's presented. But the important thing about having attorneys and bond attorneys is that they explain everything to you. And it's important that when you buy a property, you ask questions. It's crucial that you ask questions. Because many people assume, and I think that's where you get caught out. That's where you can find yourself in hot water. So before you sign, you ask a lot of questions. What does this mean? How does this affect me? So that's the one advice that I can give for you today. For anyone, in fact, signing any legal agreement, that you've got to ask questions and you've got to understand how it affects you. Yes, in a nutshell. Okie dokie. This is an interesting question. When are you going to finance places such as Bronkhorstspruit and Witbank and the and the Middelburg? This is a question from Deboho. Thank you, Deboho, for that question. So our areas of finance are a list that we do research on before we approve it. So we're constantly looking to expand. Any business would like to expand. If you have a deal in areas that are not listed in our areas of finance, you're more than welcome to approach us. It's not a no, it's a maybe. It's a maybe. But I can guarantee you that our areas of finance, we've done the research for it, so we know that these areas work. So we definitely will consider it. We'll definitely consider it. So you're more than welcome to contact us if you have a property in any township that's not listed in our areas of finance in the website. Nonetheless, we can consider it. It's a maybe. Not a yes, not a no. A maybe. We'll consider the deal depending on its merits and the feasibility of that transaction. Okay. So it looks like there's a lot of questions. Oh, I'm struggling to read and chat at the same time. So this is making sure that I'm testing my ability to multitask. Okay, so we have another question here. It is from Matsibela Kekana. Thank you, Matsibela. I love your name, by the way. Love your name. What are the risks of using my paid-up house as a 20% deposit? Okay, so we look at deposit in what sense? I have more questions in respect of that. So are you saying deposit in terms of equity that you have to provide for your loan facility? Okay, in respect of that, we look at the project of where you want to build. So if you want to build in your residential home, then where you live, that contribution then could be considered equity. However, if you want to build in another project, or you want to buy another project, how then are you going to source liquidity from your primary home? Will you then set up a bond for that property? So these are questions that you need to ask and answer for yourself before you decide to do this. Will it be a facility? How will you go about getting that done? You can, because you want to release liquidity, take up a mortgage, or you can think of ways of, let me think, if you're not developing in that project, it's very difficult to then use equity from that project unless you have cash, unless you liquefy it into cash. These are just me thinking out loud very much. Okie dokie. But Matsibela, if you can comment more in the questions, I have more information about, more questions rather, about the 20% deposit. So how would you want to build in this paid up house or what? But you're more than welcome to reach out to our offices as well, to our website, to engage further, absolutely. Okay, there we go. We have another question from Wandile Charles. Do you have a list of town planners and contract construction? Let me read that. Let me see. Contractors or construction list one can look up to work with. So what we do at Umastandi is that we're a property financing company. So if you have a project that you are keen to construct and you have a construction team, we will help you vet that construction team. We can make recommendations for contractors that you can like to work with, but ultimately the choice is yours. Remember, you are the developer, so how you want this project to look like at the end, it's entirely your baby. We back you and support you in making sure that the decisions that you choose are best for you as well. So the contractor, you have to vet yourself. We assist you in vetting that contractor. We have a list that we can recommend, but remember, ultimately the choice on who you pick to build your dream project is ultimately yours. Okay, nonetheless. Okay, what are the requirements to join Umastandi? This is a fantastic question. I love it. What are the requirements to join Umastandi? So A, you have to have a project that you like to finance or build in our areas of finance. So if you want to buy a rental property enterprise, you can then approach us. We look at the feasibility of the project, whether or not this project will be able to pay for its own debts and its own liabilities. The loan facility, as well as your insurance for the property, as well as the utilities that are due to the municipality as well. It's important that this building is able to, in a nutshell, take care of itself. And then we look at you as a person. Whether or not you're able to manage your affairs accordingly. We do a credit search on you as a person because it is a loan facility, and we are bound to the national laws or national credit laws of the country. We look at that. We look at your borrowing entity and whether or not the governance in your borrowing entity allows for measures, for you control measures like this. Do you have a bank account for your business? We look at that as well. So we do a vetting process, and we walk through this vetting process with you so that you understand what the decisions are, what the questions are, and how it affects you, and you're able to choose the right decisions for you when you have the information. So that's important. And the best one, I think, is that 20% equity. So we partner with you in looking at the project that you want to finance. So if, for example, your project, and this includes the buying, this includes the refurbishment, this includes the legal fees of that project, cost, for example, 10 Rand. We will partner with you, and you have to provide your 20 Rand equity contribution to that project. So you have to have what we call an earnest contribution, skin in the game, because ultimately this project is yours. We partner with you in ultimately building this dream home. But you need to remember the decisions are yours. You are the developer, and we finance you, we back you in that instance. In a nutshell, yeah, that is what it is. Okie dokie. Shucks though, today was interactive. I feel like I've been speaking so much. You've put me to work, guys. But I'm grateful. I hope that I have simplified property transactions. I try to use very basic language, and I hope that you enjoy that very much. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to email us at info@umastandi or to contact us at 010-595-9000. So it's 3 zeros at the end, so 9,000 at the end. Let me repeat that again. So it's 010-595-9000 at the end. You're more than welcome to contact us, ask whatever questions, and please take a quiz at our website. Please, we are at www.umastandi.co.za. That is www.umastandi.co.za. Take a look at our areas of finance, take a look at who we are as a team, the feasibility, what we look for in the project. We have offices in KZN, we have offices in Cape Town, and we have offices in Joburg. I hope I'm not forgetting. And PE as well. We definitely, so look at our website. You can tell that I haven't been to our website in a long time. Okay. And please feel free to join us or ask any questions, and email us. We're always here to help. But from me, Neo, the conveyancing and legal specialist at Umastandi, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for asking questions. And please remember, we have that event in KwaZulu-Natal, in Durban, partnering with the Idwala Property Group. That is, let me see, it was on the 25th of November at 9:30 at KZN, in KZN. That's where it is. But you need to follow us on our social medias. We've posted up. All you need to do is register. It's free. And then you're in a room with like-minded individuals. For me, it's perfect. All you need to do is just register, and then come through. Enjoy. But anyway, bye from me. It was great. There you go.